Hey, what's going on guys? Olani Omayowa here. Alright, so in this video we'll be creating this particular flyer. Now this video is basically for beginners, those who do not know how to create a flyer using Adobe Photoshop, or you want to learn why things are done in a certain way when creating flyers using Adobe Photoshop. If this is you, well, this is a video you want to watch, and I cannot wait to put you through in some aspects of creating designs using Adobe Photoshop. Now let's jump right into it, guys. Alright, so here we are in Adobe Photoshop. Now the first thing you want to do is actually create a new document. Of course, you'll be creating your flyer in a document, so the first thing you want to do is create a new document. Now I'll click on the new file. I'll make sure to explain why I want to make use of artboards using this video. Alright, so 150 resolution is okay. We'll be creating our document in RGB, since the intention of this flyer is to just display it on a screen. Now if you wanted to create a document which you would use on print, you have to change this to CMYK, and 8-bit is okay here. I'm just going to click on create. Alright, so the very first thing you want to do is save your document. Alright, make sure you save your document, because as we know, Adobe has this issue of crashing softwares. You don't want to be the person who almost finished designing his flyer and boom, you can't find your flyer anymore because the software crashed. Okay, that's very disheartening and you don't want to experience that. So press Ctrl S on your keyboard and save your document. Alright, now to import an image or a document using Adobe Photoshop, what you want to do is click on File and click on Place Embedded. Now you navigate to wherever your document is and just click on it, and boom, you have the document in Photoshop. I'm just going to drag this out of my artboard. Now the reason why I made use of artboard, the reason why I clicked on the artboard button earlier, was because I want to make variations. If I go to the left hand side of my screen and long press on the move tool, you'll see the option of selecting from two tools. You have the move tool and you have the artboard tool. If I click on the artboard tool and click on my artboard layer, as you can see, we have some buttons which popped up on the screen. You have these plus buttons which you can use to create a new document. So the importance of this is that I can actually just make variations of my flyer in this particular document. Okay, I don't have to create a new document to change some things in my flyers. I can easily just make the variations and look at everything through and export everything individually. Alright, so I'm just going to go back to one document for now. Alright, as you can see, we have this document and we want to create this document. Okay, we want to create this flyer. Sorry, I'm just going to go back here. So our intention is to create this particular flyer. Now the first thing you want to do is actually create your background. You are supposed to have a foundation on where you build on. Okay, so I'm just going to go into my artboard and go straight to this middle button, click on this button and click on solid color. As you can see, I can select whatever color it is I want to create. Alright, so I'm just going to create this and choose white and click on OK. As you can see, I have this background in my artboard. I'm just going to delete this layer because it's not needed. And the next thing you want to do is create a gradient. Now what is a gradient? A gradient is a combination of two or more colors. So you can have a blue color which moves gradually into green, or a red color which moves gradually into another color, or two or more colors which combine together to create something beautiful. Alright, as you can see in our document, in this document we have this blue color, we have this light blue color here, and we also have this looks like a purplish color. Alright, so to create a gradient, you have two options. You can actually go into this layer, into these options again, and just create your gradients using this button. Or something I love to do is actually just create my gradient on top of my background layer. Okay, so I'll just select this background layer I can actually just rename this. Let me just rename this. So you can double click on your name to rename. I'm just going to name this background. All right, so what I want to do now is, with this background layer selected, I'm going to go into this FX and click on gradient overlay, and this dialog box will pop up. As you can see, we have this gradient button option selected, and this is where you can make changes to your gradient. So I'm just going to click on this, and you can see you have options of selecting different gradient, different options. If you don't know how to create a gradient, you can actually just select one here and move on. So I'm just going to go to blues somewhere here. All right, as you can see, something you can do is, if you do not have the exact colors, you can just click on this button. If you click on this button with one selected, click on this button and just click on wherever it is you want to select. As you can see, it has selected this color for me. I'm also going to click on this button and click on the lighter shade of blue. As you can see, we have that. Click on OK, and I will change the direction using this this compass like stuff. So I'm just going to change this here. As you can see, as I change it, the direction of light actually changes. You can just make adjustments using this. You can even go into your canvas and just drag the gradients, as you can see. So I'm just going to reduce this scale. What you want to do is explore and try to make things as similar as possible. Okay, I think this is okay. This is great. And make sure you are in linear. Okay, make sure you're in linear, since we want the direction of light to go from here to here. If you choose any other option, if you choose radial, you create your gradients in circles. And it's actually stuff you want to explore with later, but for now we'll be creating our gradients in linear gradient, and I think this is okay for me. As you can see, we also have this particular gradient here. Next thing you want to do to create this gradient is click on this plus button. If you hover over this button, you'll see it is the option to create a new layer. So I'm just going to click on this button. Make sure this layer is inside your artboard. Okay, if you created this outside your artboard, just drag it into this artboard. All right, so this is a new layer. Now this layer has nothing on it. What you want to do is I want to create this particular color. Okay, this purplish color. Now what I want to do first is actually go into this colors section here, click on this black icon, and make a selection of this color. I'm just going to make a selection of this color and click on OK. Now I'll make use of a particular tool to create that color. All right, so I'll go into my brush. I'll look for the brush tool. This is the brush tool here. All right, so this is my brush tool. Now first thing I want to do is go into these options and make sure the brush is actually a very soft brush. All right, so I'll select one of these soft brushes. As you can see, soft round. So I'll select this soft brush, and make sure the hardness is reduced to the minimum level, 0%. And you can actually make adjustments of sizes. Later on, you'll make use of most of these brushes. You have different brushes. You can actually even download brushes online to make variations. All right, so my brush is selected, and with this layer selected, this layer we just created, I'm just going to click once. I'm going to click once. As you can see, I think I'm having GPU issues, but as you can see, this is actually created. Yeah, so this is created. I can actually just continue to paint over this, to make different variations. I don't know. All right, so we have this. As you can see, we have this. This looks a bit okay. I'm going to go into these options here, these blend options. Click on this normal and just try to see if I can choose something better. Okay, I'm just going to leave this and I'm going to duplicate this layer, this particular layer. To duplicate a layer, just press Ctrl J on your keyboard. As you can see, I have a new layer. I'm just going to drag this. Actually, I'll drag the bottom layer. Okay, I'm just going to drag the bottom layer here. And I'm going to go into my blend mode and select multiply. I can actually just reduce the size of this layer by pressing Ctrl T on your keyboard to bring the transform option, and I'm going to just drag this using Alt and Shift. So I'm going to hold Alt and Shift key on your keyboard and just drag this down to reduce this. Okay, so we have this. I'm going to reduce this layer too. Ctrl T again and hold Alt and Shift, then click and drag. Okay. All right, so we have this. Now the next thing you want to do is create grids. All right, create grids so that you want to make sure that your flyer is well organized. That's something you want to achieve in your early stages. All right, so to create my grids, I'm just going to make use of rulers. Now to bring up the ruler, I already have the ruler here, but if you do not have it, all you have to do is press Ctrl and R on your keyboard, or Command and R on your keyboard, and the rulers will come up. Now what I want to do is actually just drag this here. As you can see, drag this here to make sure that I have them selected. I'm going to drag another one here. Okay, so I'm going to drag another one here just to make sure things are organized. All right, so I'm going to keep dragging and creating. Sorry. All right, so now that we have our background created, we can actually just make adjustments later, but for now we'll be creating our text. So for this large text, overcoming challenges, we are going to be creating that now. Now to do that, we need our text tool. So your text tool is in your toolbar, of course, and now this is your text tool. So I'm just going to click on this tool and click on the horizontal type tool, and on my canvas I'm just going to click and drag to create a particular section of where I want my text to be. As you can see, the default text will automatically pop up, but we can actually just change that into whatever text it is we want to create. So I'm just going to type this: overcoming challenges. Can actually just drag this out to whatever size we want. Now that I have this, I do not like this text, so I need to change this text and actually just make adjustments to this text. Now to do that, we need our character panel. Now in your character panel, you will see options for text. For this text we've created, this is where you actually change the character. You actually change options for text. Now this is where my character panel is, but if you cannot see this panel, go into window and click on character. Once you go into window and make sure character is selected, you will see that this panel will pop up on your screen. Now this is already white, but if you wanted to change the color of this, you can actually just click on that white area and make adjustments, or choose a particular color which you want. Now for us, we'll be maintaining white. Now as you can see, our text is not properly aligned. So to make this text aligned, we need our paragraph panel. Now just like we got our character panel, you want to go into window again and click on paragraph. Okay, as you can see, this immediately pops up, and I'm going to click on this option to make our text aligned. So I'll go back into the character panel and just change this particular text. I think I'll just make use of Lato. Okay, so Lato medium should be okay for us. No, Let's use Lato bold. Yeah, so I'm going to make use of Lato bold. Now the line spacing is actually too much for me, so I'm just going to go back here and change this. I can actually just use my arrow key. Okay, all right, as you can see, this is too large, so I'll go into the transform tool, pressing Ctrl T on my keyboard just to scale this down, holding shift on my keyboard so that it actually scales down, or coming here, if I click on this button here, it immediately links the height and the width. So without holding shift, I can actually just scale down and it scales down proportionally. Okay, so if this is not selected and I try to scale down without holding shift, as you can see, the size will be affected. Okay, so make sure this is selected if you do not want to hold shift, and you can actually just scale this down. So I have this. Next thing I want to do is actually duplicate this text. Now if I hold Alt on my keyboard and click and drag, I can easily just duplicate the text. Now I can reduce the size of this in my character panel. I'm just coming here, this is 46, so I can go 24. Yeah, 24 looks okay. All right, so I'm just going to type this out. All right, so this is wonderful. As you can see, our line spacing is actually affected once again, so I'll just go back into my character panel and choose a particular line spacing which would work. I'm going to make use of 26. Yeah, so I'm going to make use of 26. As you can see, we've created our text. Now on to the next text. We have another text here. Once again, I'm going to click on this and drag, holding Alt. So Alt, click and drag to create a duplicate text. All right, so as you can see, we have to reduce the font weight of this and also the size. So I'm just going to resize this to say 16 and go here and reduce the font weight to medium. And let's try regular. All right, I'm going to type this: a female focused webinar. Can reduce this. So we have this text, but as you've noticed, this text actually has a background. All right, so it has a background. Now to create this background, this is actually just a rectangle, a rounded rectangle. So you go into the toolbar again once more, click and hold, and click on the rectangle tool. Sorry, so if I click here and drag out, I can easily create a rectangle. Okay, now to select this particular color in this properties panel, just click on this color here, click on this option and make a selection of the particular color it is you want to select. As you can see, Photoshop immediately makes that selection for you. Click on OK and the color is selected. Also, you also have the option up here. You can actually just come here and click on this again and make whatever selection it is you want to make. All right, now as you've noticed, we actually have a stroke here, but we do not want this stroke, so I'm just going to click on this and click on this null button to cancel out my stroke. All right, now that we are done with that, I'm clicking on this to collapse the panel, and I can actually just increase the width of this. Okay, so to increase the width or the height, you can use your transform tool once more. Click on press Ctrl T on your keyboard, Ctrl and T on your keyboard, and the option will pop up. You can actually make adjustments. Once again, you can deselect this to easily make adjustments of the width and height. All right, so I'm just going to zoom in. Now this, as we notice, if I drag this on top of this layer, it is on top of the text, and this is not what we want. We actually want the text on top. Now to make that adjustment, you go to your layers panel here and drag this rectangle just beneath the text layer. All right, so it's actually like a foundation thing, something built on top of something, and you can actually just make those changes in your layers panel. So now that I've made this change, to center this automatically, what you want to do is click on these two layers, click on the rectangle layer as well as the text layer, and come up here. You have some align options here, and if I click on this two, as you can see is in the middle, so this two immediately centers the text. Okay, we're going to have issues here because as you can see this text is not actually centered. Okay, so this text is not actually centered. So what we want to do first is either reduce this or just go into your paragraph panel and make sure the text is centered. So it's centered in the middle now. Okay, so I'm just going to click on this layer panel to deselect. Also, all right, so now we'll go and do what we wanted to do before. So we can select the rectangle. So now we'll select the rectangle layer as well as the text layer and click on this button once again. As you can see, it immediately centers it for us, and this is not exactly in the middle, so click. We are going to have to make adjustments by ourselves. All right, this is not long enough, so I'm just going to click on the rectangle layer, press Ctrl T on my keyboard and increase the width. All right, so I'm going to select these two layers and press Ctrl G on my keyboard to group them. As you can see, I've created a group. I can rename this group as text with background, whatever it is you want to name it as, and make sure here you are in the group selection area. So click on this button and click on group and make sure auto select is actually selected. So what auto select does is if I click on a particular layer on my canvas, Photoshop immediately recognizes that and makes the selection for me in my layers panel, so I don't have to go back into my layers panel and start looking for where those texts are. Sometimes it can be actually cumbersome and very disturbing. Okay, all right, so the next thing I want to do is actually arrange this text. So I'm just going to click on this. Since we have group selected, it will immediately select this group, and I can easily just drag this. As you can see, as I drag these guides actually show me that they are perfectly aligned to the left. All right, so the next section is actually creating the images in this text box. Now to do this, we are going to make use of a particular property known as clipping. So clipping simply means you have a particular object and you want something to be inside that particular object. All right, so for this we're making use of a rectangle. So we'll make use of a rectangle, we'll create a rectangle and put this image inside the rectangle. So to do that, once again we'll go back into our rectangle tool and just draw out a particular rectangle. If you want to draw out a square, make sure Shift is selected and drag, and when you release, a rectangle will be created. If you want the edges to be rounded, all you have to do is just click, make sure your rectangle is selected and the rectangle tool is actually selected, and come here into one of them and just drag. If you drag in, as you can see, we are creating rounded rectangles. We can actually just create a bit of roundedness, or another option is to go into the properties panel here and just size whatever it is we want to size. So I'm just going to make this 60. All right, this is fine for me. Once again, we have this outline, we have this stroke, and I do not want this stroke, so I'm just going to go into the stroke and cancel this. All right, and next thing you want to do is actually putting an image into our rectangle. Now to do this, I'm going to make sure this is selected, go into the file option and click on place embedded. So I'm going to select a random image. All right, so I'm going to select this image. As you can see, this is very large, so you can resize this holding shift on your keyboard and dragging. As you can see, I have reduce the size, and you can place it on top of your rectangle. Now if you press enter on keyboard, nothing actually happens. As you can see, the rectangle is separate and our image is actually separate. Now to make sure this image is inside the rectangle, what you want to do is click on the rectangle layer, and make sure this image is directly on top of that rectangle layer. As you can see, let me just drag this up. So this is my rectangle layer and this is my image. All right, so what you want to do is hold Alt on your keyboard and come in between these two layers and just click once. Once you click once, you will see that the image immediately goes into the rectangle, so the rectangle immediately clips the image. All right, so I can actually just make adjustments to the size. Press Ctrl T on your keyboard to resize, and make as much adjustment as you want. Okay, now I'm just going to reduce the whole of this. I can actually just click on both layers and press Ctrl T and just resize this. All right, so I have this. Next thing to do is create the text layers, of course. So I have this. I'm going to make use of one of the text layers, and the easiest for me to use is actually the smallest one. So I'm just going to click on this once, hold Alt on my keyboard and drag. Okay, so I'm just going to drag this on top of this. It's nothing important, but then all right, so I do not need the background, as you can see, so I'm going to go into my group and click on the rectangle and just delete that. I can actually just ungroup this since it's just one layer that is inside, so it's not necessary. I'm just going to click on this group, right click on my keyboard and click on ungroup layers. So as you can see, I have just my text. So I'm going to type this out, Tom Robert. Okay, so I'm going to drag this here. Once again, I want to make sure that my text is centered. As you can see, okay, this is centered. We've done that already on this particular text layer. Okay, so this is centered. This is too large for me. I'm going to make this, let's say 12. No, too little. 14. Yeah, 14 looks okay. But I want to make this bold. Let's make use of semi-bold. Yeah, this looks okay. Now I'm going to duplicate this particular layer again. So once again, I'm going to click on this layer. Make sure auto select is selected. So Photoshop immediately selects the layer for you. If this is not selected and you click on layers, nothing will happen in your layers panel. All right, so I'm going to click on Tom Roberts and hold Alt on my keyboard, click and drag to create the subtext. All right, so I'm just going to double click on this, reduce the size to say 10. Yeah, 10 looks fine. So I'm going to rename this Architects HR Consultants. I don't want to waste time, so I'm just going to leave this as it is. So I can click on both text layers and come up to my align options and just center this. You want to make sure things are perfect. All right, when you're just starting out, of course. Okay, so I'm going to center this even with my rectangle just to make sure things are centered. So I'm just going to click on these three layers and click on center. All right, so I can easily just center this image. Sorry, adjust this image again. Now, as you can see, this can be seen as a particular group. Okay, so I'm just going to group these layers. I'm going to group this image, the rectangle, and these two texts, as you can see. So this is the rectangle, the image. If you hold Ctrl on your keyboard, you can click and select layers, or if you click on one layer and go to the last layer of what you want to select and hold Shift, you will see that after Premiere Pro, sorry, you see that Photoshop will select that range of layers for you. And I'm going to click on Ctrl G on my keyboard to make a group. All right, so we have this group here, as you can see. All right, so I'm going to duplicate this group the same way we've been duplicating layers, the same way you duplicate anything in Photoshop. So I'm going to click on this group and just click and drag. All right, so I can just, when you release, a duplicate will be created for you. You can change this image if you want. Actually, I'm just going to change the image. So if I click on this, open up this layer, or this group rather, and click on my image, I can actually just go into File, go into Place Embedded, and select another image. All right, so we have this image. I'm just going to resize this. All right, so I have this. Once again, to clip an image, hold Alt on your keyboard, click and come in between the two layers and just click on this. All right, so I don't need this particular layer. I'm just going to delete this. Okay, so I have this. I have my two images inside my document, as you can see, together with their texts. All right, so next thing I want to do is create this, the invitation, the dates, the time, the venue, as well as the platform. All right, so we can do this. Now what I want to do is actually duplicate another text, so I'm just going to click on one of this. Let me click on this one, hold Alt on your keyboard and drag. I'm just going to scale this down, Ctrl T and scale down. Don't forget to hold Shift if you do not have this selected. All right, so I'm going to enter this text, 26th October 2024. So I can easily just, create this as time 10 AM, venue is zoom. So we want to use the zoom icon here. So I can either just space this out. So if I press Ctrl A on my keyboard to select all, come into my character panel, I can easily just space this out. All right, this looks nice. And I'm going to deselect. So I have this. I think I want to increase the date a bit. So I'm going to double click again, click on select the date and just increase the size in my character panel. Yeah, this looks nice. So we need the icon for zoom, so you can easily just go on Google and get the icon, paste your image. As you can see, we have this, but what I want to do is actually take off the black background. Now to do that easily, we can go into your selection tools. If you have not seen any, if you don't understand how the selection tools work, you can just click on the video around later and watch it. I've created specific videos on each of the selection tools and how they work. All right, so I'll be making use of the magic wand tool here. Click on the magic wand tool and just click on the black layer. I'm going to click on delete on my keyboard, as you can see. So click on the black layer and just delete them. All right, so we have this, and I can easily just move this to wherever it is I want it to be. All right, so we have this. Now this is actually not visible, so something I can do is actually just create a rectangle beneath the zoom layer. So I can just easily create a sort of maybe a white rectangle to make sure it is visible. Yeah, so people do not go to Google Meet instead of Zoom. All right, so I'll select these two layers. I can group them and just resize. I think I'm going to increase the line spacing of this text. Oh, sorry, I think we messed that up. So I'm going to increase the line spacing of this text. Drag this out to review your text. Alright, so I have this. Alright, so this looks a bit weird to me. Something I'll do is actually just interchange the position of the time and the venue. So I can easily just drag this, cut this out, come here and paste this in, then drag this here. I think I prefer this arrangement. This looks better. So it has like a reduction in size from from above to beneath. Just make things look as arranged as possible, especially when you're making professional flyers like this for professional organizations. You want things to be well arranged. So because designers have a way of passing a message, passing an idea of what an organization looks like. The only thing we need right now is the Jobberman logo, as well as whatever logo we need, which I don't think this other logo is necessary. So we'll be importing the Jobberman logo. Alright, so I'll go into File and just drag this into Photoshop and resize this. And place this where it's supposed to be, I think. Yeah. Alright, so we have this. As you can see, this is looking way similar to what we have. Very similar. We can actually just adjust this. Now, something we can do on the logo is, as you can see, the logo is white. Now, you want to make sure that your brand, the brand you're designing for, or the organization you're designing for, actually allows you to make adjustments to their logos. You have to see the kind of adjustments they allow. Some brands do not allow you to, make any adjustments. Actually, I'm supposed to go into, the Jobberman website and, find their brand guideline and look at the various logo options they have. I can actually just get this white logo, but instead of doing that and wasting time, since everything is just white, I'm going to click on the Jobberman logo here and come into my FX options, click on color overlay. What I want to do is actually make this logo white. So as you can see, if you click on color overlay, you have options here which you can adjust and make to change the color of a particular layer. Alright, so I'm going to make this white, click on OK, and as you can see, we have a white Jobberman logo which was not previously white. Alright, so we have this. I'm just going to make a few adjustments to make sure things are centered. Actually, I'm going to click here and align this. Alright, click on this one, make sure it's aligned. Click here. Okay, I can actually just group this, Ctrl G. Alright, so as we can see, we have recreated the Jobberman flyer. Alright, overcoming challenges, resilience and perseverance in oh wonderful, we forgot our E. You want to make sure you read your text through. Okay, I think I'm going to reduce the width of this. I'm going to reduce this to light. Yeah, this looks similar now. All right, so we have this and we have successfully recreated our logo, our flyer. Something we forgot to align this. This looks very bad. Make sure what you are designing, the elements of your designs are well aligned. You can actually make use of this ruler and just drag this out and make sure this is aligned. you know, these little details actually go a long way in making your designs beautiful and professional. All right, so we have this. We have successfully recreated this design. Thank you very much for watching this video. Thank you very much, and make sure you practice and practice. Now the link to this document will be in the description, so if you want to go in there and just, you know, look around and look at how things are, no problem, good luck. But the best way to learn is actually to make sure you practice it and recreate it on your own. All right, you can recreate by watching this video, and also recreate when you're not watching the video. So you just go back to, you know, look at it and go and do what you're supposed to do and make corrections. All right, so see you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, and let's keep learning and growing together, guys. All right, see you guys later.